Well, welcome back to BizMat Ptbo. It's a pleasure to introduce you to Rhonda Keenan. Rhonda and I have known each other for many years. I don't even want to guess how many years, Rhonda.
We're not going to say how many years.
We're not going to say, yeah, just a handful. And from the days before she even came to Peterborough. So I am very lucky to have seen her the days before she came to Peterborough and now here. You may have heard her name in passing if you saw Terry Giles talking about who he works with in the community partners, we call them.
But here's the other thing, and you're going to appreciate this, and then I'll shut up.
I don't believe you.
No, don't. Why I have faith in our community? We got awesome entrepreneurs. We got strong, creative and resilient entrepreneurs. But we also have, as you know, Team Peterborough. Mm-hmm. And actually, on my notes, I created a little list of things that we did in response for COVID, because I'm just trying to prepare for our AGM coming up and just reflecting on all we did, because we really haven't had a chance to do it. So you kind of pushed me when you wanted to do this interview to sit down and say, what did you do? The very first thing on this on a 6-page list is Team Peterborough, Team Ptbo.
Team Ptbo.
And Stu Harrison over at the Chamber, Rhonda Keenan, superstar, absolute superstar.
She is.
At Peterborough Economic Development and our good friends at the city. But Team Peterborough, if we didn't have the ability and to put away egos and to collectively, I'm sorry, I almost forgot Community Futures.
Yep, Gail.
The Gail and
Gail Morehouse, powerhouse.
Miss Moneybags.
Yes.
And if we
constantly creative ways of
my God,
finding entrepreneurs money.
So if these people inside and out, and when I would turn to them during the pandemic, I said, I'm thinking of this, let's do it. There was no, well, how's it going to work, Terry? Or we'll come in once we see it working. It was like, we're there. What do you want to do? And I'm really proud of that. And I know from my colleagues, from Gail to Rhonda and her team, to you, to the Chamber of Commerce and the board members they all care about each and every business in our community. They're not numbers. We're not so big as like in a big city where everybody's lost. They know their names. They know their children's name. We even know our pets' names. I bet you can name most of your
yes.
friends' pets' names.
Of course.
On the Chamber board.
Yeah.
So this is what's great, because somebody coined it that we're the biggest, smallest city, or there's all kinds of different ways that we're a urban city.
Well, it's unique for those community partners that you mentioned to actually dialogue. And in time of crisis, often people will run and protect their own dollars, because often you're all funded from the same pocket eventually. That is a huge problem in many of our cities. Here, I'm so happy to hear that it's gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. And Rhonda leads, she is the president and CEO of our one and only Peterborough and the Kawarthas Economic Development. And it's critical that we speak to Rhonda, because it's all about growing our businesses, making this the place to retain businesses, grow businesses, attract businesses. And our economic development team has that going through their veins. So everything they do is about how do you keep our current businesses. And she's had to do quite a bit through the pandemic to make sure that happened. And then how to make this the place that you want to work, live, and prosper. So I'm going to introduce you to Rhonda. Rhonda, please share with us who you are and what your team does for Peterborough.
Well, thank you so much. You did such a great job introducing what we do. I should bring you with me when I make presentations, because that was great. But I have been the president and CEO for Peterborough and the Kawarthas Economic Development for 5 years now. And so my team, it's a pretty vibrant team, and we work on behalf of the city of Peterborough and the county of Peterborough to do economic development activities for the entire region. And what that means is it's a pretty robust portfolio. We do traditional things like try to attract new industry to the region, and we spend some time working with our existing businesses to see how we can help them expand and identify what barriers or challenges are getting in the way and helping remove some. We also help small businesses get started. through our Small Business Enterprise Center. But we're also the destination marketing organization for the region. And so we also market this place as a great place to visit for visitors and students, and encouraging them to see what little bit of paradise we get to call home on a regular basis. And so we get to combine all of those things and really show this is the destination of choice, no matter what sector or lifestyle you're choosing at this point in time. So that's sort of an overview of what we do, but it's great to work in Peterborough and the Kawarthas, and there's amazing partners that I get to work with. So thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you so much. And Rhonda, you're absolutely right. I even completely missed tourism. So this is the place, and I always like to say that we want to live, play, and prosper. And we want people to visit, but we also want I want people to visit and then to end up staying here. But obviously not the entire world can stay here, even though I'm sure they'd want to. So, and you're doing a fantastic job with our tourism. I get to be part of a judging committee for what's called EDCO. And on an annual basis, I think it's going on 11 years now, and seeing what comes out of Peterborough, whether it's tourism, whether it's agricultural tourism, whether it's, under the lock, what's behind me right now, the dinner you guys, you did
underwater dining.
Underwater dining, that's right. So many creative activities to draw people into our community comes out of Rhonda's team. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So Rhonda, I'm going to ask you, what happened? What would you like to share with us? What happened during the pandemic that you were able to step in? I mean, that's just so many aspects I know you were involved in. What are some of the highlights you might want to share with us?
Well, I think we all knew that something was happening. I think we didn't realize how quickly and how absolutely utter devastating the pandemic was going to be. And Stu Harrison from the Chamber of Commerce and I talk all the time that we were hosting a business development summit days before everything shut down. And we all agreed that we were starting to get more and more nervous as we were having that final, or that event that day back in 2020, which seems like a lifetime ago, but then also yesterday at the same time. It's this weird COVID time warp. But we had said, had it been the following day, we would have canceled the business summit, but because we weren't quite sure what it was. And so I think we went from this, we had absolutely no idea what was happening, how we were going to be impacted, to try to understand what the impacts of business were going to be. How do we help them? What do they need? And I think what we thought at the time was, okay, well, we're going to be shut down. We're going to open up in this big linear fashion, and here's how we're going to do it. And we had this plan, and of course we were working with blinders at that point. I think we failed to understand that it wasn't going to be linear. We sort of thought you got to stage 1 to stage 2, stage 3, and off you go. We'll be back good as new. And it was this fluctuation between the stages that were really posing a lot of challenges. And it was like, is this okay? Is that okay? How do I do this safely? And I think that was the hard part of trying to understand and where different businesses were in that stage. And not all businesses were feeling it the same way. And so one sector of our economy was completely shut down, while one was operating, at twice the capacity, and they just couldn't keep up. So every business seemed to have its own set of challenges to manage. And so it was just trying to figure out what they were and how do we resource those things properly to be able to assist them through this. And I do have to give kudos to Peterborough Public Health, because they did a great job over and over and over again of answering businesses' questions. Last summer when we were trying to open, and the resorts were like, well, what's safe? How do I actually clean life jackets if somebody's using the life jackets? How do we make this safe? How often do we have to clean the room? What are the rules? And so they were wonderful at hosting webinars to walk our businesses through what they need to do on how they need to respond, how they can open safely, what are the, and I think that was the biggest fear for businesses is, I need to do this properly. And how do I do it properly? And try to get that information on a timely basis so they could at least make the adjustments and train their staff and do all of those things. But like I said, it was tough for all of our businesses, but we did pull together. And I think what's nice about Peterborough and the Kawarthas is it was a team approach. We said we need input, and we had a ton of people at the ready coming together to say, I'll help, I'll provide input. This is what I can do. And it really is the Team Ptbo approach that I do think makes this region special, because everybody wants to help. They do want to support each other. And I think other communities may not know how special that is.
Oh, I agree. It is so special that we actually, you as our economic development, then our chamber steward, and then Gail from Community Futures, Terry from the downtown DBIA, you all speak together so often, and you've become, I imagine you're on speed dial if that was a thing. I mean, and it's beautiful. And what I'm hearing from resorts, I got to interview Elmhurst Resort, Greg, recently, and he was talking about constantly being in communication with his industry to understand what works and sharing. And you do that between all industries. Once you know somebody has something that might be shareable, they reach out through you so that they can share back to the rest of the industries in this location. You share amongst all of your team Peterborough. It's exceptional, the communication here. And it's so hard because most of the time people are trying to protect their turf when they're under crisis. And in your case, you guys became closer as a team in Team Ptbo, which was beautiful. Are there any specific things that come to mind that you'd want to share?
I mean, there's so many, but I think the one that sort of kicked off, and again, I think if you think back to the panic when everything was shut down originally in COVID, we had manufacturers that said, we make products and we can try to, and at the time we were under-resourced and we didn't have enough PPE for everyone. And so we did have manufacturers that were coming to the table saying, I think I can build face shields and we can donate them as our, this is our home and we want to protect our frontline workers. And so can we do this? And so again, bringing everyone together, we had so many manufacturers at the table trying to share, I have excess supplies. How do I share it? Who needs what? And so we created a tool on our website to be able to show, because what we were doing is we had an Excel spreadsheet and we were sharing it around and everybody's inbox was absolutely jammed. And so what we said is we'll build this tool so you can post on there what you have excess of and what you might need.
Oh, congratulations. That's huge.
Yeah, it was amazing. And the businesses like Harco and Merit Precision, I think we have to give them so much credit. They worked around the clock just to say they wanted to do this. And we played a very small role. It was obviously the companies that did the hard work. But those are the kinds of things that we said, this is what business said they needed. They didn't have time to handle the inbox. So, okay, well, we'll take this on to give you a tool to be able to do that well. Same thing, obviously, Charlotte Products with Swish products, they recognize in the sanitation game that they needed to be in that space. So they were able to add an additional line to be able to create more commercial cleaning products and sanitation products. And so we were able to see some businesses that were able to get off the ground while that was happening. And, at the same time, though, we also, we knew that our tourism businesses were impacted because of the lockdown, because it was stay home, work from home if you can. Those businesses were really struggling because they weren't used to being closed out to all of those visitors. And so we were able to receive some funding through EcDev, and we were able to partner with Community Futures to be able to give some tourism businesses funding to be able to stretch their dollars and add clients in the best way possible. And so they were more capital improvements. How can they build a patio so that they can serve customers when they weren't allowed to have anybody inside? Our hotels and accommodations, how can they buy those sanitizing systems to be able to clean hotel rooms and resort rooms quickly? All of those types of things, how do they put up barriers? How do they, install plexiglass to divide things? And some of them were building new patio furniture just to be able to have clients outside and serve them. And so it was so, I was so grateful to be able to provide that type of funding to our businesses at that time of need. And it was a lot of chaos because you're trying to get this money out the door as they're trying to ramp up for the next tourism season. So that was something that was, some of the highlights of the good news stories that I think happened during this time.
And what was interesting is some of the hospitality industry that we've talked to through the interviews are saying some of the things that they were thinking of doing before, they were forced into doing now, whether it was, online scheduling of time in the pool because they're only allowed to have so many people in their pool. So families would come to their location, but now they had to restrict how many people went to the pool. So it was online, and through funding that they received, the kind of funding you just talked about, they were able to put that in place. And now they say that's going to be the norm going forward. So a lot of these things that they did, and the collaboration between your manufacturers. We all talk about, let's get our manufacturers stronger. Let's have them collaborate so that they fill each other's gaps. I'll bet that some of the systems you put in place that help that collaboration will also live forward. And that's what I'm finding is a lot of the things we had to do to survive, to help each other survive, are now becoming common business practices moving forward, which is amazing. Do you have any examples like that you can think of?
Oh, there are so many. When I start to think of, just some of the great examples of the tourism businesses, but I think even just how we are serving our customers.
Sure.
As the destination marketing organization, how are we marketing when you're not really allowed to encourage visitors
Travel
from outside?
Yeah.
And so educating our locals, here's what's in your own backyard. Take advantage. Well, you're not, you can't travel. You should be living like a visitor and really appreciate this wonderful place that we live in. But there were a few things that we did in our small business enterprise center, our BAC. We created an e-learning tool. And so we used to do workshops, and of course people would have to sign up, and we were able to offer the workshops via Zoom versus in classroom. But we also recognize that people are trying to homeschool their kids, they're trying to work a job. It was really tough for them to be able to take a class on how to market or how to build out their business plan at a time that was prescribed. And so what we did was we created an e-learning platform, so that somebody can still register, they can still get all of the support, but they can go through the system at their own pace, at their own time. And if that happens to be at 11 o'clock at night or at 7 o'clock in the morning, they're not restricted to our calendar to be able to make that happen. And so that is something I absolutely think is going to stay.
To be a norm,
forward.
Absolutely. I agree. There's going to be a hybrid of learning going forward. I don't know what it's going to look like 100%, but I think you nailed it. That it's going to be some live, but it's going to be on their own time because people have gotten used to that now. It takes 3 months to have to create a new habit, I always like to say. And what I'm hearing consistently from everyone is that we've been doing this now for the last year or so, and people like it. So going forward, this tool you've created is going to be powerful going forward.
Yeah, we were really grateful. And again, the team did an amazing job. We were also very fortunate that we were able to receive some funding to offer a virtual advisor as well. And so this just helped us we do offer some provincial programs that, you apply to the Starter Company Plus program, again, to help a new business get started. But not everyone is quite ready to get into the program. They might need some additional work. They might need some additional assistance. So we were able to have a virtual advisor that wasn't available during, regular work hours or business hours, so that they could help individuals do one-on-one consultations and really walk them through how to build a business plan. So with the next intake of our Starter Company Plus program, they might be a little bit more ahead of the game so that they could be enrolled in the program. And I think that was a really great addition to the team to offer that service to everyone. It's hard when everyone is working remotely, but thank goodness for technology that we are able to do so many things in virtual mode. I think if you would have asked me 2 years ago, would we have been able to pull this off? I probably would have said no. But in times of crisis, everyone pulled together and did what they had to do, and it's working.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. I think the virtual coaching that you're able to do is going to be something that's going to become a norm. That's, I imagine you had different approaches to even managing your own team, let alone, that's what I've heard. Everyone was talking to their clients they were closer to their clients because they had to do it virtually, and they were speaking with them more often than they expected. And then their team members, they were speaking to them more often than they expected because they had to touch base with them and they had to communicate versus taking them for granted because they're down the hall now. So what else would you like to share with us?
Oh, there's so many things. I think we recognize that as we come out of COVID, we still don't have all of the impacts yet. We don't know the long-term impacts of what COVID looks like, but we do know that we're a desirable community. And with remote working, we know that more and more people are choosing to live here. They still can work abroad. They can still work in multiple communities, but they're selecting to choose to live here. And so that's a really important piece. And I think it's going to be a fundamental change, I think, for economic development agencies as a whole, that although we're always talking to companies and talking about what a business might need, I think there's going to be a bit of a switch where you're starting to talk about what workers
what
need.
Humans need.
And we'll be recruiting those humans as opposed to recruiting those companies.
Oh, well, that's huge. Actually, you're absolutely right, because we've been focused on how do we get these companies to situate here. You really we need that, but we need the humans to know that this is where they need to come, regardless if they're an entrepreneur or regardless if they're working remotely for someone. Absolutely. And
I think this really helped in, this community, because before we used to always have a problem with spousal employment. So somebody may want to relocate here because they have a great job, whether it's at the hospital or Siemens or something like that, but their spouse may have another profession that doesn't have a job necessarily quite readily available. And what remote working does is it almost eliminates that, because there is a job available here, but the spouse can still continue to work from home if remote working is available to them. So that really has opened up a bit of an opportunity for us, and it's a bit of a game changer.
That is a game changer. So many actual elements of what you said are game changers. So Rhonda, thank you so much for meeting with us. I think there's something that you guys released recently, the Visitors Pledge, that I know you wanted to talk about in our pre-conversation. You were sharing that with me, and please share that with everyone.
Would absolutely love to. Back in 2019, we were grateful to participate in an organization and an association with Curve Lake First Nation, Hiawatha First Nation, the County of Peterborough, OSM Township, and Selwyn Township. And really, we signed a friendship accord saying that we want to work together. And what we recognized was tourism is a great opportunity, and we all should be working together to support each other. And so really the Friendship Accord was just how we will be friends, and we've been working towards that. When we had the pandemic, though, we recognized that because people weren't leaving and we were having visitors come into the community that weren't always as respectful to the land as we would like them to be, and they weren't using the property and the amenities in the way that we would want them to. And so we thought it was important to create a visitor pledge. And I have to give kudos to the tourism team for going out and the background and the research and the work that they did. But they worked with staff from Curve Lake and Hiawatha First Nation to help strike and build a visitor pledge that is rooted in Indigenous culture. And so I am still practicing the name. I am not great at this language, but Otepitanaman is the name of the pledge. And it really is about respect for the land. And so we are encouraging our local folks and leaders in the community to take the pledge. We were really grateful that we had an idea that we would get 500 people sign this pledge by the end of this year, and we surpassed that goal in just under a week.
I bet.
So it's a great pledge, and I think it really values and protects the community and cherishes what we think is important in this region, and we want our visitors to understand how important this region is, and we want to sustain it for generations to come. And so I would invite everyone to take the Otepitanaman pledge.
Would you be okay if we played it right now?
I would love to.
Okay, so we are going to play it, and I ask everyone, as Rhonda just did, to please take the pledge. Rhonda, thank you very, very much for joining us today. And please keep up the amazing work that you're doing. I believe sometimes the job you do is thankless. And I just want to know, we thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Sophie. This is a great program. It's always nice to be able to showcase all of the assets and all of the people who have to work together to make this a great. It is no one person who does everything. It's the beauty of everybody working together. So thank you so much for having this forum to highlight the work that everyone is doing. So thank you.